And then just about 6 months later, I thought I was going to die, because that's when my daughter Judy called me from Boston. She was a student at Boston University. And she called me one Sunday night, says, "Daddy, can you speak to me on the phone?" But you know, sometimes when you get a telephone call and you don't know what's happening, the hair on your neck begins to go up. Well, that's what happened in this telephone call. I knew that something was wrong. I said, "What's wrong, Judy?" And she said, "Well, I've written you a letter. It's taken me 2 weeks to write. It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I was going to mail it to you, but I'm afraid to mail it to you because I don't want to hurt you. So would it be okay if I read it to you?" And you can only imagine what I was going through. I knew something was wrong. I said, "Wait a minute, sweetheart, let me get a pad and pencil." And I did. I said, "Okay, what is it?" And at that point, she began to share with me some events that had taken place in her life over the prior 9 months, which led her to the decision that Jesus is our Messiah. And I've got to tell you that when she said that, it was like a knife being placed right into my heart. I kept saying, "Judy, this is impossible. This is impossible. You're Jewish. You can't believe in Jesus. It's impossible. You can't be Jewish and believe in Jesus. You can't be a Jew and a Christian at the same time. You can't go north and south at the same time. What's wrong with you? Don't you understand this is impossible?" And what I'm hearing on the telephone is my daughter is telling me that she has just left us and joined them. She's left us, the Jewish people, and joined our enemy, the Christians, the people who are oppressing us for all of these thousands of years. And my heart was breaking. How could you betray us this way? How could you do this to us? So I said, "Look, sweetheart, you're coming home in 2 weeks for your spring break. We'll talk about it then, okay?" And she said, "Okay, Daddy." And then she said, "I love you." And I said, "And I love you, Judy, but I don't understand what you're saying. I don't understand how you could be saying these things." I can't remember too much about the next couple of weeks, but then it was time for Judy to come home. And then I said, brilliantly, I said, "All right, Judy, tell us about this craziness that you're into." And then she begins to share with us this tremendous story of what had happened, which caused her to come to the conclusion that Jesus really is our Messiah. But I've got to tell you, I really wasn't listening to what she was saying. I couldn't pay any attention to what she was saying because my whole worldview is at risk here. How can you? This is impossible, Judy. You can't be Jewish and believe in Jesus. You can't go north and south at the same time. You can't go east and west at the same time. You can't be a Jew and a Christian at the same time. You can't do this. And then Judy, at the age of 21, said to me, "Daddy, that's not true." I said, "I beg your pardon?" She says, "Daddy, that's not true. There always have been Jewish believers." And she challenged me. She said, "Dad, would you do me a favor?" And I said, "Well, it all depends on what it is." She said, "Would you read the Bible for yourself? It's either true or it's false. If it's true, you'll know what to do. If it's false, you'll know what to do." And I said, "That's what you want. You're out there all by yourself. You want me to read what you read and prove to you that you didn't read it properly, and you want me to prove to you that Jesus is not the Messiah. Okay, kid, that's what I'm going to do." And I picked up the Bible, the little prophecy edition of the Bible, and I began for the first time to read the Gospel of Matthew. And so here I am for the first time in my life. I'm going to pick up this book, and I'm prepared for a book of hatred. Because where else do they get their hatred for us? It either has to come from their mother's milk or it comes from this book that they read. And so I'm prepared for a book of hatred against the Jewish people, and I'm a little shaky in my hands as I pick it up to read it. And Friday, I was reading the Gospel of John. And I remember in the 5th chapter of John's Gospel, a statement was made which really, really got to me. You remember where Jesus said, "Don't think that it's I who accuse you. Another accuses you, Moses. If you knew him, you'd know me because he wrote of me." And I said, wow, I don't know anything about our scriptures. So I made a note of that. And then on Friday night, I finished the Gospel of John. And Saturday morning, I started the Acts of the Apostles. And then we got to the 10th chapter of the book of Acts. And that's when the trouble hit. And Peter begins to talk to Cornelius and to the other Gentiles in Cornelius' home about the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and about the Messiah of Israel, Jesus. And then something absolutely unexpected occurred. The Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, fell upon these Gentiles. And Peter and the Jewish guys who were with him were astonished. How can this be? How could our Holy Spirit fall upon these Gentiles? How is it possible? How can our Holy... He's for us, he's not for them. The Messiah is for us, he's not for them. How can this be? And quickly I'm turning the pages. Now I'm in the 11th chapter of the book of Acts. And now I'm in the Jerusalem Council. And they're giving Peter what for? Peter, what's the matter with you? You're some kind of a nut? How could you go into their home and break bread with them and have fellowship with them and share the Messiah with them? And what are you doing, man? Are you a nut? Paraphrase. And Peter says, well, fellas, let me tell you what happened. And Peter tells the Jerusalem Council how the Holy Spirit fell upon these Gentiles. And they came to the conclusion that God must not be a respecter of persons. It's okay for Gentiles to believe. And when I read that, I was taken aback. How is it possible that 2,000 years ago, Jesus was only for us Jews and not for the Gentiles? And now 2,000 years later, he's for the Gentiles and he's not for us? How did that happen? And at that moment in time, what my daughter Judy had come to believe was no longer relevant. Now I had to know. The Holy Spirit had put his hook in my jaw and he was reeling me in. And I had to know for myself. My entire worldview is based upon the fact that Jesus is not our Messiah. He may be the Messiah for the Gentiles, but he's not our Messiah. But how could it be that 2,000 years ago he was only for us and not for them, and now 2,000 years later he's for them and not for us? About a week or two later, as I continued to study, it became clear to me that I had a problem on my hands. The last thing in this world that I ever wanted to believe is that Jesus is our Jewish Messiah. I did not want to believe that. Didn't want to have anything to do with that.